আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
জি ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম।
কি খবর ভাইরা, সব ভালো?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আপনি ভালো আছেন?
আছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আছি আছি একটু ইয়াতে চলে আসি। হ্যাঁ, রাকিব ভালো?
জি স্যার, আছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ স্যার। স্যার আপনি ভালো তো স্যার?
আছি, সবার দোয়া আছি। ওই আজকে যে সেশনটা আমি আসলাম in view of my coming and also কথা শোনা যায় ক্লিয়ার ভাবে?
জি স্যার, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
আহ, একটু শুনি। তো সেটা হলো যে টুডে সেশন এটা মূলত স্পেশাল সেশন। এটাকে আমরা রিভিউ সেশন, তারপরে সেশন, স্পেশালাইজ সেশন, এরকম কিছু সেশন আমরা রাখি প্রত্যেকটা সেশনে। তো ট্যাক্সেশন, বিশেষ করে ট্যাক্সেশন, তারপরে আমাদের আপনার এখানে নাই কেস স্টাডি, ফিনান্সিয়াল ম্যানেজমেন্ট, এরকম বিশেষ করে 3 সাবজেক্টে আমাদের যারা অত্যধিক বুৎপত্তি সম্পন্ন, যারা ওয়াইজ এবং বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে এক্সপার্টাইজ তাদের আছেন, এই সংক্রান্ত আমাদের পার্সোনালিটিস গুলো ক্লাস নেন। এটা রেগুলার থেকে সম্পূর্ণ ডিফারেন্স, দ্যাট মিন সেপারেট। তো এই জন্য আজকের যে ক্লাসটা মূলত এটা ওভারঅল ডাইরেক্টর পোর্শন, এবং আমাদের পরম শ্রদ্ধেয় আমাদের চিফ এক্সিকিউটিভ অফিসার স্যার সিও স্যার, তিনি গণপ্রজাতন্ত্রী বাংলাদেশ সরকারের সিনিয়র সচিব ছিলেন এবং আমাদের কনসার্ন মিনিস্ট্রি অফ কমার্স। তারপরে বাইরে 9 বছর দূতাবাসে কোথাও কাউন্সিলর, কোথাও ফার্স্ট সেক্রেটারি, এই হিসাবে দায়িত্ব পালন করছেন বাইরেই, দ্যাট মিনস আউটসাইড অফ দ্য কান্ট্রি অ্যান্ড অ্যাট অ্যাব্রোড, এবং বিশেষ ক্যাডার ট্যাক্সেশন। পরবর্তীতে পুল বলে এটা হয়ে অ্যাডমিনে চলে এসে তখন সচিব হয়েছেন, সিনিয়র সচিব হয়েছেন। আমাদের এখানে প্রায় 1 বছর সমাগত। তো ভালো, হি ইজ ভেরি গুড। ওনার নিজের লেখনী আছে ট্যাক্সের উপরে, নিজের কি বলে যে আপনার স্পেশালাইজেশন আছে, রাইট আপ আছে, এবং আপনারা ক্লাস করলে বুঝবেন অত্যন্ত জ্ঞানধী এবং প্রজ্ঞাবান বাংলা বলে। তো কাজে এই সেশনটা গুরুত্ব দিবেন। আর একটা জিনিস আপনাদের এখানে ক্রিয়েট হবে, বিশেষ করে এই সেশনে আমি সার্টিফিকেট লেভেলে কিছু নিয়েছিলাম, আবার প্রফেশনাল লেভেলেও এবার ইন করালাম। তো সেটা হলো যে ইউ উইল বি ফ্লুয়েন্ট ইন ইংলিশ। আমরা মূলত যারা আসেন এখানে বাঙালি, আমরা ঠিক আছে, বোঝার জন্য বাংলা ভালো, কিন্তু মিডিয়াম অফ ইনস্ট্রাকশন ইংলিশ। কাজে এখানে ইংরেজি দিয়ে উপস্থাপনা, প্রেজেন্টেশন, নাও ইউ আর ইন দ্য মিডল স্টেজ, দ্যাট মিনস actually senior management positions in every place, যেহেতু প্রফেশনাল স্টেজ। তো if you want to join management trainee, even AVP, অনেক আমাদের সিসি পাস, সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল পাস, অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট আছে, ইকবাল, পলাশ, এনারা ইয়েতে ইবিএল এ সবগুলো সার্টিফিকেট এবং সিসি, এরা অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট হয়ে গেছে, ঢুকেছিল ম্যানেজমেন্ট ট্রেনিতে, তখন সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল পাসও ছিল না। তো যেটা বলার যে you should have to also enrich of your professional language, that means business communications or proper utilizing of the English language. এই জন্য এখানে সুন্দর সুন্দর দেখবেন সিম্পল ইংলিশে স্যার ইয়ে করবেন। 7 দিনেও ইংরেজি শেখা যায় না, 1 মাসেও হয় না, আবার 3 মাসেও হয় না, আবার কারো কাছে হয় না। তো ইংরেজিতে কিসের উপর নির্ভর করে, মাই ডিয়ার অল, মানে dear students and classified of that means male and female, ইংরেজি কিসের উপরে, practicing more and also acquiring of skillness কি, ওয়ার্ডটা জানা, স্ট্রাকচারটা মানা, আর একটা কি ফ্লুয়েন্ট ক্যাপাসিটিটা গ্রো করা, এই 3টা জিনিসের উপর ইংরেজি নির্ভর করে। তো আই এম অলসো দ্য স্টুডেন্ট অফ লিটারেচার, আপনারা তো জানেন। তো এই জন্য এখানে ছোট ছোট সিম্পল সুন্দর প্রপার এবং নেটিভ আপনি ইংলিশ হয়তো স্যার বলেন, যেমন সার্টিফিকেট লেভেলের ছাত্ররা বললো স্যার আমরা ইংলিশ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা আমাদের ভয় পেতাম প্রথমে, পরবর্তীতে স্যারের ক্লাসে যোগদান করে অত্যন্ত সুন্দর লাগছে এবং আমরা এখন 2-4 কলম ইংরেজি লিখতে পারবো। তো মাই হেয়ার রিকোয়েস্ট ইউ অল, ইউ শুড হ্যাভ টু রেসপন্সিভ মোর। যারা ক্যাপ্টেন আছেন শুধু তারাই নয়, অন্যান্য যারাও আছেন তারাও কথা বলবেন, রেসপন্স করবেন। প্রয়োজন যদি মনে করেন যে বুঝতে যে স্যার এটা যদি একটু বাংলায় একটু বলে দিতেন বলবেন স্যার, বাট ইট ইজ ডিপেন্ড অন ইউর আস্কিং, এই জন্য আপনারা ওইভাবে সাজিয়ে নেবেন। তাহলে কি হলো যে আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় প্রধান নির্বাহী স্যার আসবেন, আমি যখন আসবেন আমি বলবো কথা হয়ে গেছে, আর ভালো লাগবে। এই যে আপনাদের যে সিনপসিস গুলো দেওয়া হচ্ছে এখানে মূলত 3টা জিনিস কভার হবে। রেগুলার সাথে সম্পর্ক নাই, সম্ভবত এখানে রঞ্জন স্যার, রাকেশ বাবু, ওখানে জনি কুমার গুপ্ত, আব্দুল্লাহ মিয়া, ওই 4 জন 2 সেশনেই যাবেন। আমার ধারণা আপনারা হয়তো 4 দিন পেতে পারেন বিফোর এক্সাম। 4 দিন, হয়তো আজকে 1 দিন হলো আর হয়তো 3 দিন। এই জন্য এর ভিতরে সেরে নিয়েন যেগুলো জানেন না, প্রথমে আগে আপনি নিয়ে নিবেন ফ্রম ইউর অনারেবল গেস্ট ফ্যাকাল্টি, দ্যাট মিনস আওয়ার স্যার আর গার্ডিয়ান, আমাদের সিও স্যারের কাছ থেকে আপনি জেনে নিবেন, আগে নিবেন। উনি যখন কোশ্চিন করবেন, কোয়ারিজ করবেন, আপনি বলবেন ভুল হোক শুদ্ধ হোক সব ঠিক করে রেগুলারাইজার, ভেরি এক্সপার্ট, রিনাউন্ড প্রফেশনাল, ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটির অ্যাকাউন্টিং আমাদের সিও স্যার, তারপরে বিসিএস, এবং একাডেমিক অ্যাচিভমেন্ট ইন দা স্কুল কলেজ সব প্লেস ধারি। এই জন্য যেটা বলার যে আপনি নিয়ে নিবেন, আর স্যার যখন বলবেন আপনারা প্রশ্ন করবেন। একটু রিকোয়েস্ট করব, সেটা হলো যে instructions even also the expecting from our guest resource person, তার মানে আমাদের আজকের স্যারের যেটা, সিও স্যারের যেটা আপনাদের কাছে প্রত্যাশা বা চাবেন, আপনি রেসপন্স বাংলায় বলেন, অসুবিধা নাই, ইংরেজি না পারলেও স্যারই ওটা কভার করে আপনাকে বলবেন। তো এই জন্য আপনি চুপ থেকেন না, আর এই সুযোগ আর পাওয়া যাবে না। রঞ্জন স্যার আমার স্যারেরই ছাত্র, হ্যাঁ, তারপরে অন্যান্য যারা আছেন ট্যাক্সেশনে সব, এবং আইকন অফ দি ট্যাক্স ক্যাডার আমাদের শ্রদ্ধ সুভাষিস স্যার, মনে রাখবেন। এই জন্য আপনি নিয়ে নেন, এই জন্যই আনা। আমি মোটামুটি ম্যাথোলজি অফ টিচিং, ইভেন ডেমনস্ট্রেটিং দ্য নাইস লেকচার অফ our guest faculty or sir, which will be provided or presented or demonstrated upon all you. You may kindly also go there. এইভাবে আপনি ওই জায়গায় যাবেন। স্যারের সাথে কাজে আপনাদের জন্য ট্যাক্সেস প্লিজ টেক অ্যাট ইজ অ্যাট এ এক্সট্রাঅর্ডিনারি সেশন। হ্যাঁ, এটাকে আপনি মনে করেন আপনার কাঙ্ক্ষিত সেশন পরীক্ষার পাশের জন্য। স্টাডি করে আসবেন, স্যার যেগুলো দিচ্ছেন নেন, আর এগুলো আপনি পরীক্ষায় লিখবেন, তাহলেই হবে। আপনার যা যা প্রয়োজন, আপনার সিলেবাস, আপনার ম্যানুয়াল, even beyond of all your references, all have already been observed by this renowned guest faculty. স্যার এগুলো সব দেখেছেন, ওইভাবে প্রস্তুতি নিয়ে আসতেছেন, আসবেন। মাই রিকোয়েস্ট ইউ অল, যে শুক্রবারটা একটু সিনিয়র লেভেল, আপনারা হয়তো you are also here and there, that means your appropriate position in job, that means performing of your রিলেটেড ওয়ার্কস, শুক্রবারটা একটু আরামায়েশে থাকতে চান, কিন্তু আমি বলবো ইন দ্য গ্রেটার ইন্টারেস্ট, হ্যাঁ, পরীক্ষা কাছাকাছি মাই ডিয়ার অল। তো কাজেই এই শুক্রবারটা যখনই স্যারের সেশন হবে ছুটে চলে আসেন, আর অসুবিধা নাই, সবকিছুই তৈরি থাকবে, স্যারের সাথে রেসপন্স করবেন, সিনপসিস দেওয়া হবে। আর আপনাদের আমি রিকোয়েস্ট করবো যেটা যেটা স্যার যখন আপনাদের ওপেন বা কোনো কিছু দিয়ে দিবেন, আপনারা সরাসরি কথা বলবেন। ক্যাপ্টেনকে আনোয়ার,
জি স্যার।
যারা আছেন ক্যাপ্টেন আপনারা, স্যারকে করবেন। আর আমাদের অভিভাবক তো কাজেই নতুন তো কেউ না, আমাদের সদ্য অভিভাবক, এবং ভেরি গুড অ্যামাইকেবল, এন্ড আই থিঙ্ক হু ইজ দ্য ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক্স অ্যাকচুয়ালি are required to guide even sir any organizations and to also monitor the personnel have with this renowned resource persons. আমি মনে করি আমাদের সদ্য স্যারের এগুলো আছে। তো এই জন্য যেটা বলার যে একটু রেসপন্স থাকেন, অন্য কিছুই না। আর এখানে স্যারকে পাবেন, আপনারা আপনার আঙ্গিকে কথাবার্তা বলবেন, কোনো অসুবিধা নাই। একটা সাজেস্টেড আনসার, আনোয়ার সহ অন্যান্য যারা আছেন, একটা সাজেস্টেড আনসার কর্পোরেট লজ এন্ড প্র্যাকটিসেস, এটা আশা করতেছি যে সামনের সপ্তাহ হয়ে যাবে। আসলে এক্সাম ডিপার্টমেন্ট তো একটু থাকে ওনারা, তো আমি তো আই হ্যাভ দেম আন্ডার প্রেশার, জানাই তো আছে সকলে, যে আমি যতদূর পারি as early as possible I will also bring their front too, কাজে কোনো অসুবিধা নাই। আর আপনারা ইউর লাকি, আপনারা ভাগ্যবান। কি রকম দেখেন, আপনারা এবার ট্যাক্সেশন মিনিমাল ইনক্লুডিং অল সব আছে। সেকেন্ড আসেন সাজেস্টেড আনসার গুলোও সব দেওয়া হয়ে গেছে। থার্ড আসেন ক্লাসগুলো অত্যন্ত ইফেক্টিভ। আগে অনেক কমপ্লেন ছিল না যে এই টিচার এটা বুঝি না ওই বুঝি না। এখন যদিও আমাদের অনলাইনে হচ্ছে ডিউ টু অলসো দ্য প্যান্ডামিক সিচুয়েশন, দ্যাট মিনস স্পেশালাইজেশন অফ করোনা, কিন্তু ক্লাসগুলো মনে হয় ভালো। কারণ আমরা তো এসব কাজ করি ইন দ্য ইন্টারেস্ট অফ ইউ, আপনাদের বলার এই আর কি। এই গেল। আর এমনি কোনো কিছু বলার আছে কিনা, দু একটা ইয়ে নেই, ফিডব্যাক নেই?
স্যার আমি একটু বলতে চাচ্ছি, সেটা হলো আমাদের ইনকাম ট্যাক্সের, জি স্যার, ওই যে কোম্পানির ট্যাক্স ম্যাটারের কোনো একটা ক্লাস হয় নাই আর কি। আমাদের সবাই বলছিল যে কোম্পানির ট্যাক্স ম্যাটারে একটা
ওই যে কর্পোরেট লজ এন্ড
জি,
প্র্যাকটিসেস
জি।
এ।
না
আচ্ছা,
স্যার,
ঠিক।
ইনকাম ট্যাক্সের মধ্যে ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্সের মধ্যে স্যার ক্লাস হয়েছে মাত্র
ও
3টা,
কোম্পানি,
যে কোম্পানি ট্যাক্স
রেগুলার
বিষয়টা।
টিচার যেটা আছে, বলে গেছি কোম্পানি রিলেটেড ট্যাক্স যেগুলো, এই তো
জি স্যার।
আদার ট্যাক্স, প্রফেশনাল ট্যাক্স, হ্যাঁ, তারপর
জি,
ট্যাক্স ট্রান্সফার প্রাইসিং, এগুলো মনে হয় আপনি বলতে চাচ্ছেন।
জি,
তো
এগুলো ক্লাস
এগুলো
ব্যাটের দুইটাই ক্লাস
রেগুলার।
হয়েছে। আর
আচ্ছা,
ট্যাক্স,
আমিও বলে দেবো, এখানে টিচার আছেন কি আমাদের এই আব্দুল ওয়াহাব মিয়া না?
জি ওয়াব স্যার আছেন।
হ্যাঁ, উনি ওই একটু করোনা ইয়ে করছে, আল্লাহর রহমত একটু মনে হয় ইয়ে হয়েছে, আমি ওই জন্য বিরত রাখছি। আর এনে দেবো, অসুবিধা নেই, বলে দিব নি। উনি আবার অঙ্কে ভালো, হয়তো অন্যদিকে আমি যাব না, কিন্তু ওই ইকুয়েশন টিকুয়েশন এগুলো মানে আমার ধারণা প্রায় মিনিমাম 10 ইয়ার্স এর তার যত অঙ্কগুলা করা আছে না, এসব করা আছে। তো ওই জন্য ওনাকে যখন করাবে না, আপনার ওইগুলো একটু নিয়ে নেবেন। কারণ your exam will be narrative, that's in descriptive manners or structure, so you will also ask আব্দুল ওয়াহাব মিয়ার কাছে বিশেষ করে ওইটা আমি বলে দিব, I will make
আর
talk.
আর একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল স্যার, ওই যে যারা ফ্লেক্সি, তার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যারা ফ্লেক্সিতে ক্লাস করছে, অর্থাৎ সার্টিফিকেট লেভেলে একটা বা দুইটা সাবজেক্ট বাকি আছে, তারা তো এবার পরীক্ষা দিতে পারবে ইনশাল্লাহ স্যার, কোনো সমস্যা নেই।
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, কেন না? করসপন্ডেন্স 4টা পাস হলেই,
জি স্যার।
বল 4টা পাস হলেই অন্য যেই ক্লাসই করবে ওগুলাই ক্লাস দিতে পারবে। ওগুলো পরিপত্র পড়তে হবে তো, ভেরি ইজি। আর করসপন্ডেন্সে তো এক্সামই দেওয়া যাবে। এখন আসি, করসপন্ডেন্সই তো সব সাবজেক্ট। হ্যাঁ, যেমন এই ট্যাক্স হলো ওই ট্যাক্স, অ্যাসুরেন্স হলো ওইটা, সার্টিফিকেট প্রফেশনাল তো ম্যাক্সিমামই কাভারিং। ওখানেও একটা বিষয় আছে, 4টা পাস হলেই আর কি, যে ক্ষেত্র। আর করসপন্ডেন্ট, আর ওখানে যেটা হলো যে কেস স্টাডিটা পরীক্ষা দিতে হলে ওই দুটো পাস হয়ে আসতে হবে, মানে প্রফেশনালটা পাস হতে হবে। কেস স্টাডিজ অনলি ব্যাথ আদাব স্যার, স্যার। তো এই গেল। আর নো প্রবলেম, এই গেল। আর কোনো এমনি আর কোনো কিছু আনোয়ার?
স্যার স্যার সিএল লেভেলের স্যার রুটিনটা কতদিন পরে হতে পারে স্যার?
আচ্ছা, এটা
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার, স্যার ঢুকছে স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে, একটু 1 মিনিট ইয়ে থাকো, স্যারকে আদাব দিছি। স্যার হয়তো 2-3 মিনিটে আমি ইয়ে করবো, 3:30, 3:50 আর 5 মিনিট থাকি, ছাত্র আর একটু আসুক, এসে গেছে ম্যাক্সিমাম। আর একটু ইয়ে করে, আচ্ছা, আমরা বাই দিস টাইম ইউ রিসিভ the concern class, I think exam routine. তাহলে আপনারা অলরেডি এক্সাম রুটিন পেয়ে গেছেন, দে আর প্রফেশনাল অ্যান্ড অ্যাডভান্স, উইল বি স্টার্টেড ফ্রম 15 মার্চ। তো এই জন্য সিএল যেটা অর্থাৎ সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল, ওটা প্রপোজড 27, আর রুটিনটা এটা পেয়ে যাবে ম্যাক্সিমাম টাইম ইন ইউর হ্যান্ড। আর ওখানে স্লট অনুসারে পরীক্ষা হয়, তো এই জন্য আই হ্যাভ মেড টক উইথ আওয়ার কন্ট্রোলার এক্সাম ইনক্লুডিং আদার্স, এবং আমিও জানি আমার 2-1 জায়গায় থাকতে হয়। তো সেটাতে যে যেটি স্ট্রাকচার এবং স্লট অনুযায়ী এবং সাবজেক্ট ওয়াইজ সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল হয় এবং অনেক ছাত্র থাকে, তো এই জন্য ওটা প্রপার স্টেপস টু বি টেকেন এন্ড ইউ উইল বি ইনফর্মড ভেরি সুন। কাজেই
স্যার
অসুবিধা নাই।
স্যার মক
যারা ওই
টেস্ট, স্যার এট লিস্ট স্যার মক টেস্ট নেওয়া যাবে নাকি স্যার? মানে ট্যাক্স
এটা
সিএল এর।
আমি বলি, মক টেস্টটা এটা মূলত আমাদের ঢাকা রিজিওনাল কমিটি করে থাকে, দ্যাট থিঙ্কিং যদি পরীক্ষা কাছাকাছি, তো 1-2 বিষয় হবে কি না, অলরেডি আমাদের ডিআরসি বিভিন্ন জায়গায় ট্রেনিং করতেছে, ভ্যাট ট্রেনিং এটসেট্রা পারপাসে। তো এজন্য দে উইল অলসো ইনফর্ম। এজন্য আমি এমনিতেও এটা 2-1 জন আমাকে বলছে, ডিআরসি রা এখনো দে আর থিঙ্কিং টু, যদি হয় ওরা জানাবে। প্লিজ ওয়েট, এবং ফাইনাল ডিসিশন হবে ওয়েদার it may be held or not, they will inform, but আমিও জেনে গেলাম, ওদের সাথে জেনে আমি জানাবো। কি বলো যে প্রণাশ, থ্যাংক ইউ বাবু। তো আর মনে হয় আমরা ইয়েতে না যাই, তাহলে আমি যেটা একটু শর্টে শেষ করে দিই। অলরেডি আমাদের নিয়ার 43 চলে আসছে। তো এমনিতেই শীতের ছোট দিনের বেলা 3:30 স্যারকে রিকোয়েস্ট করবো। কাজেই যেটা বলার যে I also request you, my all dear students who are also joined here, you will just to continue the sessions. আর এটা তো স্পেশাল সেশন, এটা হচ্ছে extraordinary specialized session. You will also make your conversation as per instructions of the profession. That means your educational system, English, normal English, ছোট ছোট English বলি। যদিও বৌদ্ধের অবদ্ধ কিছু থাকে, বোঝা না যায়, বাংলায় বলবেন, sir will also cover here. And by this time I have also introduced upon our introduction of our sir, কাজী বলা তো হয়েই গেছে, আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় অভিভাবক, আমাদের অত্যন্ত সম্মানীয় এবং পরম সম্মানিত আমাদের প্রধান নির্বাহী স্যার। কাজেই you will join here, আপনার অভিভাবক, আমাদের সকলের কোনো অসুবিধা নাই। Very frank way, and those students who already joined previously, I think certificate level are fully known about our sir. স্যার সম্পর্কে জানাই আছে যারা ট্যাক্সেশন করে এখানে চলে আসছেন সার্টিফিকেট লেভেলে। অনেকে আছে ডাইরেক্ট পাস করছেন স্যারের ইয়েতে। এই গেল। আর রেগুলার ক্লাসের সাথে এটার কোনোই সম্পর্ক নাই। এটা ওভারঅল ডিসকাশন, এটা প্রমোটিং সেশন, এটা এক্সাম ওরিয়েন্টেড টেকনিক সেশন। তো কাজেই আপনি এখানে আপনার চিন্তাধারার সমন্বয় রেখে, আপনার আস্কিং ম্যাটার রেখে স্যারের সাথে কভার করেন। তো এই, আর বিশেষ করে আমাদের প্রণয় সহ এখানে আনোয়ার, ক্যাপ্টেন যারা আছেন, স্যারের সাথে আপনারা সেশনটা রেসপন্সিভ থাকবেন, তার মানে সংযুক্ত থেকে ইয়েস স্যার, ইউ হ্যাভ আন্ডারস্টুড স্যার, অথবা প্লিজ স্যার কভার। স্যার যদি কোনোটা জিজ্ঞাসা করেন, ইউ উইল অলসো ফিডব্যাক দেন, না জানলেও বলবেন যে স্যার প্লিজ এক্সপ্লেন, ইট ইজ আননোন টু আস, নো প্রবলেম। আমরা স্যারকে অনুরোধ করবো, কাজে আমরা স্যারের কাছ থেকে সব জেনে নিব। আর একটা হচ্ছে নেক্সট সেশন, এটা তো আজ ফার্স্ট সেশন, আবার আগামী সপ্তাহে অনুরোধ থাকবে, কাজে সেখানে সকলেই থাকবে। So thank you very much. I also
Thank you, sir.
thankful and grateful all upon you. Please join the session. Sir, I am your Halim sir. Please come in our video section and just to start off your valuable lecture, sir. আমরা তাহলে সিনপসিস পেয়ে গেছি, আর এই অনুসারে আমরা ক্লাস এখন করব। স্যার জি, আদাব স্যার।
ওকে, আদাব।
মামুন, তুমি হোস্ট করে দাও, পরে তুমি ইয়ে থাকো।
জি স্যার, ওকে স্যার,
আমি বিদায় নিলাম স্যার, আদাব।
জি।
আদাব।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
Okay, good afternoon to everybody. So I believe that you people are in the professional group. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I know that you had a regular teacher.
Yes, sir.
And he was teaching you all the chapters related to your professional level. But I would be discussing with you on some of the issues that might be important for you. This is overall actually not related to a particular chapter, because particular chapters were covered by Mr. Ranjan Kumar Bhaumik. I just gave you one synopsis. This synopsis is temporary. Temporary means this is for the first time given to you, but it will be updated day by day. I just gave it to you in order to understand your level, because what you actually have read and what you are going to, answer the questions in the professional level examination. So have you gone through the past papers, that is exam papers, question papers, etc.? Did you have a chance to complete some of the question papers? Have you been able to solve the questions?
স্যার আমরা পড়েছি প্রশ্নগুলো পড়ে দেখেছি আর কি।
But if you do not solve the questions that was set in the examination, it would be difficult for you to answer the questions. But if you have already solved the questions, it will be much easier for you. What I want to tell you is that you have to solve the questions. So have you gone through my synopsis?
Yes, sir.
If yes, fine. If not, that is also fine, because maybe you did not have enough time to go through the synopsis, but you can go through it today or tomorrow, whenever you get an opportunity. If you have the synopsis with you, we can start with that. Have you got it with you?
Yes, sir.
I will discuss some of the issues which are mentioned in the synopsis. Maybe we can start with number one. I have given you a problem. The problem has covered some of the areas, because you will be a chartered accountant. You may take up a job in a company or in the corporate sector, whatever it is, or you may also serve in the government, or you can independently practice by opening a firm, maybe a partnership firm, or maybe an individual concern, whatever it is. So if you practice as an independent chartered accountant, you may be asked for consultation on income tax issues. So a problem is like this, because assume that you are a chartered accountant and the government officer, he was in the rank of a secretary, and then he retired. So at the time of retirement, you know that he is supposed to get lump sum amount as leave encashment. Then he will be getting a gratuity amount, and then he will be getting pension money. So these are the amounts a retired government servant is entitled to receiving from the government. So the given case says that the government servant, he was in the rank of a secretary and retired in November 2018. Soon after his retirement, he sought advice of a chartered accountant and gave details of his salary to the chartered accountant. His basic salary at the time of his retirement was 82,000 taka. That means it was his last salary. He had other emoluments like house rent allowance, medical allowance, and he availed of a car. That means the government provided him with a car. So you are asked to calculate leave encashment, pension per month, and the gratuity amount. And it is also said that he had outstanding balance for car loan amounting to taka 8 lakhs. He sought advice with regard to best investment option, because he will be receiving some money. After you calculate the money he will be receiving from the government, then you can see how much he is getting. And he is also asking you to give him options for his investment, where to invest. So you have to give him advice accordingly, which would be his best investment. He sought advice with regard to best investment option. How much could he invest in Sanchay Patra? His provident fund balance was taka 1 crore. Another information for you, he received taka 1 crore from the government. But this figure is more than the total amount. That means the amount consisting of his contribution and interest accrued thereon. Whatever he has received, the 1 crore taka, this is more than the total contribution made by the concerned person and the interest accrued thereon. So it has not been given what was the added figure, that is increased figure, or the figure which is more than the total contribution and the interest accrued. You can assume it. Now you have to advise him to the best of your knowledge. So what you have to do, you have to calculate the amounts the government officer, retired government officer would be receiving from the government. All these calculations have to be made, and then you have to advise him where to invest. And also, of course, you will have calculate the effect on his income calculation by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, because he has to submit a return and he has to show the incomes he is earning now. And of course, he has to show the investment he has already made, because he has got some fund and the fund has been utilized by investment in some of the sectors. And now what is to be done? You can give the advice, or you can tell me what you would do. You would be receiving a consultation fee from the concerned officer, that means from the retired government officer, and you can also prepare his return of income and you can submit it to the concerned circle where he is an assessee. So it will be your responsibility to deal with the income and tax. Anybody? Give your view. Any idea you have, or you don't have any idea?
I don't have any idea. I
Okay.
never.
So far we know gratuity, the exemption limit of gratuity up to 2.5 crore, and pension amount is totally exempted. In the other case, if he received salary and others, so we have to calculate total income, and then we have to calculate tax liability.
Yes, you have to calculate total income, that is true. But here the question is, you have to advise him on the investment.
As a sir, as a advisor, Chanar bhai bolen.
25% of taxable income or taka 1 crore, whichever is lower.
Sir,
What is that? 25% of the total income?
25% of taxable income
Yes,
or taka 1 crore.
yes.
Or actual investment,
Or actual investment,
whichever is low.
whichever is lower.
Okay, but you have to know the question, what the question is all about.
sir,
Yeah, tell me.
as a advisor, we should advise him how much he have to pay the government, and as an advisor, I should advise him which opportunity he have and he should take.
Yes, that is the question. Now, in order to advise him properly, you have to show the calculations that you will be receiving that amount of money from the government in this form. How much he would be receiving from the government as pension money per month? Because he has now the option of receiving pension money and at the same time gratuity money. He does not have only option of having gratuity money. But a few years ago, a retired government servant was able to sell out all his salary, basic salary. So he received only gratuity money. It was his option. Or he could also get the pension money. Now, a government servant has only got one option. And that one option is he has to have pension money and gratuity money at the same time. It means that you have to calculate the pension money first, then you have to calculate the gratuity money. So the gratuity money would be 50% and the pension money would be 50%. Pension money, and the difference between the gratuity money and pension money is that pension money is given per month. It is a regular payment. Every month you will be getting a certain amount of money, and gratuity money is paid in one go. That means at a time. It is not paid to you several times. So that is the only difference between the two, but both the payments are made by the government after retirement. So how to calculate it? You have to calculate the basic salary only. That means you have to take the basic salary only into account. Medical allowance or conveyance allowance or any other allowances would not be taken into account. So basic salary that is given to you, which is 82,000 taka. That is the highest salary of the government. And now you have to calculate 90% of this amount. You can just write down if you want to have for your better understanding in future. 90% of this figure, 82,000. So you calculate how much it is. What is the figure? Hmm?
73,800.
Yes. That means you will multiply this figure by 90%. So it is 73,800. This is the figure you are arriving at. So this figure has to be divided into two parts equally. So if you divide this by 2, it is 36,900. So your pension money would be 36,900 per month. Of course, you will have medical allowance with this, and you will have inflation money in the month of July. But other than that, your pension money per month would be 36,900. That is the figure. Okay, so another 36,900. This figure has to be multiplied by 230.
84,87,000.
84,87,000. So that is the gratuity figure. That means you will be receiving this figure at a time. 84,87,000. Okay. So this fund is available to the assessee for investment, because pension money, he has to receive it every month. So he cannot invest the pension money in any sector. So this figure is eligible for investment. Okay, what else is there? Another information is given. That information is he was given a car loan. That means government officers are now entitled to having car loan from the government, because government gives them loan. Some years ago it was 25 lakhs taka. Nowadays it is 30 lakhs taka. So if you consider the case in 2018 as it is given here, so that time the figure was 25 lakhs. So he received a figure of taka 25 lakhs as loan money for purchasing the car. And he paid the installments to the government. Now the outstanding amount is taka 8 lakh at the time of his retirement. So he has to pay back this amount to the government. So what the government would do? Government will deduct that amount from this figure. That is a gratuity amount comes to 84,87,000. Government would be deducting taka 8 lakhs from this. So if you deduct taka 8 lakhs from this, then your total figure would be 76,87,000. That is the figure you will be receiving net. So you can invest 76,87,000. So this advice you can give him. At the same time, he will be receiving the provident fund balance, because he contributed to the provident fund. It is a government provident fund. He contributed each month to that fund, and interest accrued on that amount. But the employer, that means the government, did not contribute to that fund. Okay. So 1 crore taka he received from the government. But it is also said that this amount is more than the figure than the total contribution and interest accrued thereon. But how much it is more? So it is not given here, but it could be given in the examination. But now, since it is not given, so you can assume it. You can assume that taka 10 lakhs was the more amount or additional amount he received from the provident fund. So if it is more than the total contribution and interest accrued thereon, 10 lakhs taka. So 10 lakhs taka, he cannot get it from the provident fund, which will be free from tax. So this 10 lakh taka would be added to his total income at the time of calculation of income by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that is additional figure. But if you receive any payment from the Provident Fund, that is free. That is free means that is not included in the total income as per Part A of the 6th schedule to the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So the amount which is more than the contribution and interest accrued thereon would be the figure which is not exclusive from the total income. So DCT will calculate that figure as an income. And that would be treated as requisite or profit in lieu of salary. So somehow or other, the government paid that amount to the employee. So that will be added. Now his total amount available is this 90 lakhs plus 76 lakhs something, which we calculated. So these two figures are available to him. And another figure, a retired government servant, he will also be receiving an amount which is called leave encashment. That means 18 months salary would be given to him at a time. So what was his basic pay? It was 82,000 taka. So you can calculate 82,000 taka by 18. So how much would it be?
Fourteen lakh 76,000.
Yes, 14,76,000. That is the figure which you will be receiving as leave encashment. And leave encashment is generally taxable. But for the government servants, there is a special circular from the Finance Division of the Ministry of Finance that they are exempted from this figure to be taxed. That means this figure would also not be taxed at the time of calculation of tax money by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that's why you are exempted from that figure as well. So these are the figures which you will be receiving. That means his gratuity amount, his leave encashment amount, and his provident fund amount. These are the three figures he will be receiving. And as I have said to you, that taka 8 lakh, which is outstanding to be paid to the government, that will be deducted. So now you can see how much money he will be receiving. And out of that money, he would be able to invest in some Sanchay Patros, because he was a government servant, and you should advise him accordingly that you had fixed income all the time. So that's why you have to utilize your fund in such a way so that you are not at risk. So that's why he need to have some fixed income. That means in the form of interest. And it is always better for him because he has got some opportunities or options to invest in pension Sanchay Patra, also in family Sanchay Patra, and also 3 monthly profit-based Sanchay Patra, etc. So best thing is to invest in the pension Sanchay Patra and family Sanchay Patra. But family Sanchay Patra cannot be purchased by the assessee himself. Rather, he has to invest in that Sanchay Patra in the name of his spouse. That means in the name of his wife or in the name of his daughter, if she is with him. That means if she is dependent on him. So a maximum amount of taka, 45 lakhs, could be invested in family Sanchay Patra, and taka 50 lakh maximum could be invested in pension Sanchay Patra. These two figures are profitable compared to other investments. So if you invest taka 50 lakhs in your pension Sanchay Patra, around 40,235 taka per month would be earned by you. So after every 3 months, you will be getting the figure. So per month figure is very much likely to be 40,235. And for the investment in family Sanchay Patra at an amount of taka 45 lakhs, monthly interest would be 38,880. So that is the monthly interest you will be receiving in the name of your wife. So interest from family Sanchay Patra is taxable, but interest from pension Sanchay Patra is also taxable. There is an option. That means if you invest up to taka 5 lakh only in the pension Sanchay Patra, then interest on taka 5 lakh would be exempted from tax. But if you invest more than 5 lakh taka, then it will not be excluded from your income. Rather, it will be taxed. Full amount will be taxed. And if you receive some interest from 3 monthly profit-based Sanchay Patra, that is also to be included in the income, and which is also taxable. So this suggestion you can give to the retired government officer, and maximum investment he could make taka 1 crore, not more than that. So in that way, what could be done? 45 lakhs in the name of his wife, 50 lakhs in his own name, so it is 95 lakhs. And 5 lakh taka could be invested in 3 monthly Sanchay Patra. And 3 monthly Sanchay Patra, say for example, if he can invest 15 lakhs taka, then he can earn around 12,000 something per month. So in 3 months, it could be 36,000 something. That could be his earning. So that is the figure, and that is the earning, and that is the total investment he can make, and that is the total figure he can receive from the government. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. You can take some notes, and then you can calculate the figures that could help you in the examination with problems relating to all these issues. Okay. Number 2. An officer of Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation, it is under the Ministry of Jute and Textile, was granted deputation for 3 years to study master's program and MPhil in a foreign university. He did not come to Bangladesh during this period. That means during the 3-year period. When he came back to Bangladesh, he submitted his individual returns for 3 years. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes imposed penalty and delay interest for the late submission of the returns. He sought your advice as a chartered accountant to redress the suffering. Advise him properly. So have you understood what is actually asked?
We understood.
Okay. So
He has a proper reason for delaying the submission of late return.
okay,
Logical reason.
he has got some appropriate reason for submitting the return late. Okay. So what shall you tell the SSC? Since he has already been imposed a penalty, and what shall you do on behalf of the SSC?
Sir, I think he has to submit the proper documents for getting the PSD program
Okay.
and before the SSC, before the DCT. Sorry.
No, let us suppose that he gave the proper document to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes already while submitting the return, because he submitted all the returns together, returns for 3 years. He submitted. And at the time of submission of the return, definitely he has given the reasons why he could not submit the returns in the respective assessment year. And he also stated the reasons why he is now submitting all the returns together for 3 years. And it is sure that he gave the paper of his deputation that he was doing master's program as well as MPhil in a foreign university, because the government has granted him deputation. So that's why this is very natural that he would be submitting all the documents relating to his deputation order. So even then, maybe Deputy Commissioner of Taxes imposed penalty on him.
So he didn't stay in Bangladesh visiting 3 years. So he was not resident in Bangladesh. So does he need to submit his return?
Yes, that is the question. Tell me.
So
Whether
he's
he
not
is required to
to-
submit the returns till then.
As he was not the resident, as the criteria, he didn't stay at Bangladesh last 3 years. He's not required to submit his return, I think.
Okay. So if you write this in the examination, it will not be correct. If you say that he was not in Bangladesh and that's why he was not a resident in Bangladesh, so that's why he is not supposed to submit the return, then the answer would not be correct. Who are supposed to submit the return as an individual? When, as an individual, you are supposed to submit the return? And under which section, which time you have to submit the return?
স্যার সেকশন 73 সি তে বলা আছে যে যদি কেউ লাস্ট মানে 3 বছরের রিটার্ন সাবমিট করে তাহলে তার রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে হবে। স্যার এই রিজনেও হয়তো বা রিটার্ন সাবমিট করা লাগতে পারে।
Can you tell me again what is said in section 75? You mentioned one.
স্যার ফার্স্ট অফ অল হচ্ছে আমাদের যে রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে হয় তাহলে
Yeah.
সেটাকে হচ্ছে আমার টোটাল ইনকাম যদি ট্যাক্সেবল ইনকাম ক্রস করে দেন হচ্ছে আমার রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে হবে হবে নিউ এসএসসি এর ক্ষেত্রে স্যার। দেন যখন আরেকটা কন্ডিশন দেওয়া আছে যদি সে লাস্ট 3 ইয়ার্স মানে পূর্ববর্তী 3 বছরের মধ্যে যদি কোনো সময় রিটার্ন সাবমিট করে তাহলে তার স্যার রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে হবে।
Yes, that is true. That is another condition. When to submit the return, something like that. If your income exceeds the taxable limit, that is crosses the general exemption limit. If your income crosses the general exemption limit, then you are supposed to submit the return. Okay. Once you submit the return, and afterwards, if you do not have the proper income means taxable income, then still you are to submit the return because you submitted the return in the previous year. So that's why you are supposed to submit the return. So whatever you have said is from that angle. But here the question is different. You have been given the situation, the scenario. The scenario is that he was an officer of the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation under the Ministry of Jute and Textile, and the officer was granted deputation in order to prosecute his studies in the master's program and MPhil program in a foreign university. So it took him 3 years' time to complete. So during that time, he did not come to Bangladesh. So what he did when he came back to Bangladesh at the end of 3 years, he submitted all the returns relating to 3 income years at a time because that is the only option left with him. Now, after receipt of the returns, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes assessed the income of the officer and then imposed penalty on him on the ground that he submitted the returns late, that is not in time, not in the appropriate assessment year.
স্যার
Yeah.
যেহেতু উনি দেশের বাইরে ছিলেন তো ইনকাম ট্যাক্স অনুযায়ী উনি ওনার লিগ্যাল রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ অনুযায়ী রিটার্নটা সাবমিট করতে পারতেন, অথবা আমরা জানি যে স্যার দেশের বাইরে আমাদের যে এমবেসি গুলো আছে ওইগুলো তো কেউ চাইলে রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে পারে। আর যেহেতু এই দুইটার কোনোটাই উনি করেন নাই, উনি এসএসসি ইন ডিফল্ট, সো নরমালে ওনাকে নরমালি রিটার্ন সাবমিট করতে হবে এবং ডিসিটি যদি হিয়ারিং এর জন্য অ্যালাউ করে তাহলে ওনাকে হিয়ারিং এ আর কি প্রেজেন্ট থেকে ওনার ইয়েটা ডিসিটির সাথে ডিল করতে হবে।
Okay. So whatever you have said is not fully correct. I am not convinced of your answer.
স্যার এখানে মনে হয় ওনাকে 3 মাস ব্যাক করার 3 মাসের মধ্যে ওনাকে রিটার্নটা জমা দিতে হবে, যেটা 75 এ বলা আছে যে গভর্নমেন্ট অফিসিয়ালের যদি কেউ এডুকেশন বা ট্রেনিং প্রোগ্রামের বাইরে থাকে সে রিটার্নের 3 মাসের মধ্যে সে রিটার্ন মানে বাংলাদেশে ব্যাক করার 3 মাসের মধ্যে সে রিটার্ন জমা দেবে।
Yes, that is the appropriate answer. When somebody is on deputation or somebody is under lien, then after his return to Bangladesh, within 3 months' time, he has to submit the return. And in this case, we assume that the person concerned, he submitted the returns within 3 months' time from is coming back to Bangladesh. So he was right, because section 75(3) allows him to submit the return at a time for all the assessment years together after his return to Bangladesh. And DCT is not supposed to impose any penalty on him, because he has been allowed by the Act, the ordinance, to submit the return in that way. So you have to mention the section 75(3), and is exempted from penalty or late submission interest. So that should be your answer.
এটা তো শুধু গভর্নমেন্ট এমপ্লয়ির ক্ষেত্রে হবে।
Yes, it is said here, because he is from the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation under the Ministry of Textile and Jute. So it applies to him.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? So
Sir,
if you answer that way, the answer is correct. But other things, that he was not in Bangladesh, or he could not submit the return in time because of his study, or he did not come back within that period, so those answers are not correct. Only the last answer is correct. And you know, the submission of the return, that you have to study it well. I believe you have already learned it well, because submission of return, that should be on the tax day or before the tax day. But you can also submit the return after the tax day if you seek permission of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. And Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has got the authority to extend the date for 2 months. But if you want to further extend it by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, he has to seek approval of the Inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes for another 2 months. So for a total period of 4 months, your date of submission of the return could be extended. And during that period, of course, you have to submit the return if you want to avoid penalty. That's the choice. You have to have an appropriate choice, and when you are advising an SSC, you have to advise him properly so that he does not delay in submitting his return, and that should be avoidance of, you know, penalty. And if you do not submit the return on the tax day or before the tax day, or during the extended period even, then how to submit the return?
So in normal assessment, normal assessment to submit করতে হবে তখন স্যার?
Yes. Under which section? Because you cannot submit the return under section 75. Under which section you will be submitting the return? And what the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will do? Because notice under section 79 is not issued by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. There is no notice to be issued by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes under section 75.
Sir, 78 হইতে পারে। Section 78.
Section 78, okay. But which notice will be served by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes when you do not submit the return under section 75? You have to know all this very well. Otherwise, how can you advise the SSC? You have to know the functions of the DCT. You have to know the procedures, formalities to be followed by the SSC.
নর্মালি ট্যাক্স ডে পার হয়ে গেলে তো সিসিটি আর 82 বিবিতে জমা নিবে না, তখন সাধারণ পদ্ধতিতে রিটার্ন জমা দিতে হবে এবং পরবর্তীতে ডিসিটি একটি নোটিশ করে তার জরিমানা সহ একটা তাকে শুনানির জন্য ডাকতে পারে অ্যাসেসমেন্ট করে।
Yes, that is okay. But my question is whether the DCT will be issuing a notice or serving a notice on the SSC. Because I am the DCT, say for example, and I am issuing a notice to Mr. X, who is my SSC. From the record, I have found out that Mr. X did not submit the return under section 75. That means on the tax day or before the tax day or during the extended period, he did not submit the return. So there is a responsibility from my side as Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. What shall I do then? I have a function to fulfill.
স্যার তখন কি প্রভিশনাল অ্যাসেসমেন্ট অ্যাপ্লাই করবে স্যার?
That is another issue. But I am asking you which notice he shall serve upon the SSC for the return.
Sir, section 70 under section 77, a notice for filing return, should that notice be issued by the DCT?
Yes. So in this case, the answer is the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would issue a notice under section 77 asking the SSC to submit the return before the date mentioned in the notice. So he will give a notice and a date by which the SSC has to submit the return. And at least 21 days time will be given by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that is under section 77. So when this notice will be received by the SSC, they will submit the return under section 78. So that should be the answer. Okay. Now let us see. The assessment year has gone.
Sir, if I go to foreign for medical reason,
Yes.
the answer be the same.
If you go to,
Other than deputation for medical reason, but like other.
then you are not supposed to submit the return. So you have to just write a letter to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that you are not inside the country, rather you are outside of the country and pursuing studies. So that's why you cannot submit the return now. So Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will not issue any notice anymore.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So what I have asked you is that, say for example, assessment year 21-22, which started from the first day of July 21, and which will be ending on 30th day of June 22. So this is the assessment year in which you have to submit the return for the income year 2021, 2020 and 2021. So if you have not submitted the return under section 75, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may issue a notice under section 77 asking you to submit the return. But let us suppose the assessment year is gone. That means 30th June 2022 is gone, over. And you did not submit the return, nor the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes issued a notice to you. In that case, what should be the activity, functional activity for the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? What can he do?
Sir, in that case, provisional assessment may be applied.
Assessment is a different issue. Assessment could be made, of course, why not? That is not a problem. But I'm asking you what the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would do with regard to the return, because you have not submitted the return. Now what will he do? He has also got some lapses on his own because he did not issue notice under Section 77. So it's a lapse on the part of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. And you haven't submitted the return as well. So assessment here is already gone. Now, what is the function? What he has to do, that means the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has to do in order to obtain the return from you. This is,
স্যার 93 তে নোটিশ ইস্যু করতে পারে।
sorry, tell me again.
93 তে নোটিশ ইস্যু করতে পারে।
So the city has to issue a notice under Section 93 asking you to submit a return. Yes, that is the correct answer. Thank you. So when the assessment here is gone, the Deputy Commissioner has got the option to issue a notice under Section 93 asking you to submit the return for the assessment year 21-22. So when the assessee receives that notice, he is supposed to submit the return. Yes, this is okay. All right, then come to my synopsis. Number 3, problem number 3. If you have the synopsis, you can go through it. A doctor purchased a medical equipment for his chamber and used it for 5 years. That means the doctor is a practicing doctor. The equipment was purchased at Taka 5 lakh. That medical equipment was purchased by the doctor at Taka 5 lakh. The doctor showed the cost of the equipment after charging depreciation at the rate of 10% each year on straight line basis. That means he was showing he showed it in his balance sheet. And we can assume that the doctor had professional income. And the depreciation he charged at the rate of 10% every year. After 5 years, the doctor decided to replace the equipment with a more advanced one. That means the doctor felt that the equipment has gone old and he has to buy a new one, which is more advanced. The written down value was Taka 2,50,000 at the end of the 5th year, as he charged depreciation at the rate of 10%. So 10% means 50,000 taka per month, and for 5 years, it was 2,50,000 taka. Then he disposed of the equipment at taka 5,50,000. Advised the doctor the effect of the sale on his income for tax calculation. Say, for example, he is your client, and now he is asking your opinion with regard to the sale of the equipment. Or he can ask you an opinion before he sells out the equipment or after he sells out the equipment. But the figures are given here. You have been given the figures. The cost price of the equipment, the sale price of the equipment, the depreciation that has been charged, and the written down value, which he has shown in the balance sheet. So now you can advise him accordingly. What would happen to his income?
এটা হচ্ছে 50,000 টাকা 50,000 টাকা ক্যাপিটাল গেইন এন্ড হচ্ছে 2,50,000 টাকা হবে স্যার হচ্ছে বিজনেস।
What would be the capital gain?
50,000।
50,000. How to calculate that?
টোটাল আমার কস্ট ভ্যালু থেকে হচ্ছে আমার হচ্ছে তো সেল ভ্যালু স্যার 50,000 টাকা বেশি, তো এই জন্য স্যার 50,000 টাকা আমার ক্যাপিটাল গেইন। আর যেহেতু আমার ডেপ্রিসিয়েশন এক্সপেন্স 2,50,000 হয়ে গেছে, সো আমার বাকি যে টাকাটা ওটা তো হচ্ছে আমার স্যার বিজনেস।
So which section can you relate it to calculate the gain and also the
section 19 হবে।
Section 19. Section 19 subsection
ক্যাপিটাল গেইনের জন্য
while calculating the income, in such case, you have to refer to sections because you are in the professional level.
Section 19 16
1916. Yes.
স্যার থার্ড শিডিউল বলা আছে স্যার।
Third schedule.
জি, এখানে বলা আছে স্যার যদি সেলসটা এক্সিড করে কস্টের চেয়ে তাহলে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হবে।
স্যার ওটা মনে হয় ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালের জন্য।
Okay. Here
আর
irrelevant section.
29 এ আছে।
Which section?
29 এও বলা আছে। 29 এ
29 all
আর
are
ক্যাপিটাল গেইন তো এমনি 31 এ আছে বলা যে সেলস যদি এক্সিড করে কস্ট থেকে তখন হচ্ছে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হবে। সেলস যদি কস্ট কে এক্সিড করে তাহলে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হবে 31 এ বলা আছে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন সেকশন।
But specifically you have to relate all these figures to one particular section where it has been said very clearly that any building, plant on machine or machinery having been used for the purpose of business or profession is disposed of, and the sale proceeds thereof exceeds the written down value so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value shall be treated as business or professional income. If you go to section 1916, this is the section. That means what is said in the section is this. So the calculation of the business income or professional income has been mentioned here, when and from which that is also mentioned. By selling the building plant or machinery, which has been used for the business or profession, now disposed of, and if the sale proceeds exceeds the written down value. So when the sale proceeds exceeds the written down value, it means there is a profit. So here the sale proceed is 5,50,000 and the written down value is 2,50,000. So taka 3 lakh would be profit. But what kind of profit it is? Here also said, so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value shall be treated as income from business or profession. Now you have to see one thing, that is the difference between the original cost and the written down value. Original cost is 5 lakh taka, written down value is 2,50,000 taka. The difference between the two is 2,50,000 taka. So what is said? So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. So although you have calculated taka 3 lakhs as profit, but taka 2,50,000 would be treated as income from business or profession under section 28. And what else? That means what would be the rest of the figure? The rest of the figure is 50,000 taka. And that 50,000 taka would be treated as capital gain, although it is not said here in 1916. So rest of the amount, 50,000 taka, would be treated as capital gain under section 31. So that is the calculation you have to make, and you have to refer to section 1916, and you should relate it to the business income under section 28 and under section 31 for capital gain. So when making the assessment order, the deputy commissioner will mention in the assessment order about this calculation. He will say that this is the business income under section 28 read with section 1916. And again, he would say this is the capital gain under section 31 read with section 1916. So that way the assessment order would be framed. Okay. Am I clear to you?
Yes, sir, clear.
Yes, sir.
Have you understood or not?
Yes, sir, we have understood.
So is it clear to you? Shall we proceed to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next question says, Mr. X was running a pharmacy at a place in Lokhi Bazar, Dhaka. The pharmacy was constructed by the side of a road which was narrow and needed to be widened. That means the road is actually owned by the municipal corporation and the road was very narrow, so it needs to be widened. The city corporation decided to demolish the pharmacy. In order to widen the road, the city corporation decided to demolish the pharmacy. However, the city corporation paid a compensation of Taka 20 lakhs to Mr. X. Mr. X was running the pharmacy. He was given 20 lakhs Taka in compensation money as his shop was demolished. The building was constructed at a cost of Taka 12 lakh 10 years ago. So while Mr. X actually constructed the pharmacy, that was a small building or shop, and that was constructed at Taka 12 lakh that time. The trader charged depreciation at the rate of 10% each year. That means Mr. X had a business income and he was showing the value of the pharmacy or the building of the shop at his construction price. That was the cost price, and he was charging depreciation at the rate of 10% each year. After demolishment, the scraps, including old bricks, rods, etc., was sold out at Taka 1 lakh. What would be the effect of the demolishment of the pharmacy on the income of Mr. X? So you can please give me the solution. What would you suggest to the SSC who has come to you for solution?
স্যার এর জায়গায় টোটাল টাকাটাই তো ইনকাম হবে সবগুলো মিলে।
The full amount of money that he received from the municipal corporation would be income.
জি স্যার, রিজন হচ্ছে স্যার আমার হচ্ছে যে ডেপ্রিসিয়েশন তো 10 বছর চার্জ হয়ে গেছে, আমার বলাই আছে যে 10 ইয়ার্স এগো, তো 10 ইয়ার্স এগো 10 বছর চার্জ হয়ে গেছে এন্ড হচ্ছে স্যার 10% ছাড়। তো স্যার আমার ডেপ্রিসিয়েশন যদি আমি বাদ দিই তাহলে আমার অ্যাসেটটা অলমোস্ট হচ্ছে রিটার্ন অন ভ্যালু জিরো। রিটার্ন অন ভ্যালু যেহেতু জিরো তাহলে আমার উপরের যে হচ্ছে 8 লাখ হচ্ছে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন এন্ড হচ্ছে আর 12 লাখ টাকা যেটা স্যার ওটা তো স্যার বিজনেস ইনকাম বা হচ্ছে আদার ইনকামের ভিতরে যাবে, আর স্ক্র্যাপটাও তো স্যার আদার ইনকাম, সেল অফ স্ক্র্যাপ।
Okay. So which section should I relate it to? How can we come to a decision? Because the figures are actually imaginary figures. So figures could be different.
স্যার এটা 1918 হবে স্যার।
18. Okay. So 12 lakh taka, that is the cost of construction of the small building, and depreciation was charged at the rate of 10% each year. So it was 1,20,000 taka each year, and for 10 years it is 12 lakh taka. So written down value is 0. So now it has been demolished. And if it is demolished, then compensation money has been given to the SSC by the city corporation, and which is 20 lakhs taka. Why? Because he cannot run his business. He will be deprived of the income being earned from this pharmacy, and he has to shift to another place. So that will cost him a lot, or he may not be in a position to continue his business in pharmacy. So that's why compensation money has been given to him. And he has been getting compensation money at 20 lakhs. So there is a scrap value. That means scrap value, that means the additional value for sale of old bricks, rods, etc., which have been mentioned here. Now you can refer to section 1918. What is said in section 1918? It is said that when a compensation money is received or insurance value is received for demolishment of the building or for damage of the building or destruction of the building, which having been used by the SSC, and the compensation money exceeds the written down value, less the scrap value. So written down value is 0, scrap value is 1 lakh. So if you deduct 1 lakh from 0, that should be a figure you will be arriving at. So it should be minus 1 lakh. And the compensation is 20 lakh. 20 lakh minus 1 lakh. That means 21 lakh. That should be the figure. Here, the difference between acquisition price, written down value, less scrap value is here. But you will also consider the difference between the cost of acquisition and the written down value. Cost of acquisition is 12 lakh, written down value is 0. So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. That means up to 12 lakh, up to 12 lakh would be your business income, and the rest of the amount, that is 9 lakh, would be your income from capital gain under section 31. Under section 28, business income would be 12 lakh, and under section 31, the capital gain would be 9 lakh. So that should be the figure. Is it okay for you? You can go to section 1918, what is said there. If you have the ordinance with you right at this moment, you can go through it directly and have an idea. Is it okay for you or not?
Please repeat, sir.
Okay, whenever you receive a compensation money or insurance money for the destruction of the machinery, plant or equipment or building, or for demolishment of the building, after having been used for the business, and the compensation money exceeds the written down value, you can calculate the profit. First of all, you determine the difference between the acquisition cost and the written down value. Acquisition cost 12 lakh, written down value 0. So 12 lakh is the profit. Again, you have to calculate the total profit, which is 20 lakhs you are getting from the city corporation, and it has exceeded the written down value less the scrap value. Written down value is 0, scrap value is 1 lakh. So it is minus 1 lakh. And minus 1 lakh, if you deduct it from the compensation money, 20 lakhs, it should be 21 lakh. So total profit will be 21 lakh. Now you have to divide the total profit into two parts. One part, which is up to the difference between the acquisition cost and written down value, which is 12 lakh. So 12 lakh would be your business income under section 28, and 9 lakh would be your capital gain under section 31. So two calculations have to be made, and there will be two incomes, and you have to advise your client on the effect of the sale, sorry, not sale, for the demolishment of his pharmacy and receiving the compensation money. That would be the effect.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Sir, I have a question. Here in section 1918, it says that as so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value, less the scrap value, shall be deemed to be the income of the SSC for that income year under the head income from business or profession. So, sir, my question is, shouldn't the income from business be actually 13 lakh and the capital gain should be 8 lakh?
Okay, let us check. If it is so, then calculation may be a different. Let us just check the issue. 1918. Yeah, then where any insurance, salaries or compensation monies are received in an income year in respect of any building, machinery or plant, which having been used by the SSC for the purpose of business or profession is discarded, demolished or destroyed, and the amount of such monies exceed the written down value of such building, machinery or plant, so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value less the scrap value shall be deemed to be the income of the SSC for the income year classifiable under the head income from business or profession. Yes, so maybe it is like this. When the monies exceed the written down value. So money you have received is 20 lakh taka, and the written down value is taka 0. So 20 lakh taka would be profit. However, so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value less the scrap value. So written down value is 0. Scrap value is 1 lakh, that is minus 1 lakh, and original cost is 12 lakh, so it is 13 lakh. So 13 lakh would be deducted from 20 lakhs, so 7 lakh. 7 lakh would be your capital gain, and rest of the amount would be your business income. Is it okay?
Sir, for some reason, I feel like it should be 8 lakh capital gain because the original cost was 12 lakh and the taka 1 lakh as a scrap value is different. So shouldn't it be 13 lakh and 8 lakh?
difference, what is said, excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value as described below. Okay, original cost is 12 lakh and the written down value as described below is minus 1 lakh. So minus 1 lakh and original cost 12 lakh, it would be 13 lakhs. Shall be deemed to be the income of the assessee. So business income would be then 13 lakhs. And the rest of the amount here you have to say whatever you have received. You have received 20 lakhs from the city municipal corporation. So the money you have received, that is 20 lakhs taka, and that has exceeded the written down value. So written down value is 0. So that is 20 lakhs taka total figure, total income or profit. And here it is 13 lakhs we calculated. So the rest amount would be then 7 lakh.
Oh,
Isn't
okay,
it?
sir.
It is okay?
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
I think so. That is okay. Depends on the language that has been used in 1918. So a little bit difference should be there because 1916 language is different from 1918 language. So according to the language, we have to calculate the figure.
Sir.
Yeah.
So in that case, TDS on acquisition money applied on which amount?
Acquisition, which acquisition you are mentioning here?
So acquisition of property.
This is not acquisition. Actually, this is selling of the property, not acquisition, because he is not acquisitioning any other property right at this moment. Acquisition means the municipal corporation that has acquisitioned the land, because the road which was narrow has to be widened. So that's why they have acquisitioned the land. So acquisition money, whatever given to the SSC, that is the compensation money, that is the acquisition money. And acquisition money was actually 20 lakhs, not more than that, because municipal corporation only paid 20 lakhs taka to the owner of the pharmacy. And if you calculate TDS, definitely on the money that was given by the city corporation to the owner of the pharmacy.
Okay.
I think so. That is the acquisition money, because no other issue is here. It is on the part of the municipal corporation, and definitely municipal corporation is an SSC. And whenever it gives some money or pays some money, then of course it has to deduct TDS, and it has to submit the return to the government, because it is a person under the definition of person in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So any local authority, municipality, etc., whatever it is a person, and it needs to submit the return. And any fund is also a person. So those were some additions, incorporations in the Income Tax Ordinance in the recent years. Okay, so this is up to now, all right. We can proceed to next question. Number 5. Mr. X is a retired government servant. He was allotted a piece of land by the government. He started building a house, taking loan from a bank. The loan amount was 30 lakhs. After the construction work started, it took him 2 years to complete the construction. However, in the meantime, 3 lakh each year was accrued on the borrowed capital as interest. Accrued means here 1 point is dropped. That is 3 lakh as interest each year was accrued on the borrowed capital. While construction work started, Mr. X purchased construction materials from a shop in Nawapur worth 10 lakh, which remained unpaid still now. At the end of 3 years, the construction was completed and he started receiving 1 lakh as rent from tenant. He had received an amount of 10 lakh from the tenant and nothing was said about the repayment of the amount. Assume some dates of your own and how this will affect these dealings on the income of the person as a short suggestion from you. So here are some points you have to take into account or consider. He is a retired government servant and he was allotted a piece of land by the government. So definitely he will build a house here. He took a loan from a bank, which was 30 lakhs taka. That is the figure he used in construction of the building. After the construction was started, it took him 2 years to complete the construction. That means the construction completed after 2 years of the start of the construction work. So the borrowed capital that was used by the SSC for the construction of the house, which was 3 lakhs taka, and 30 lakhs taka. On 30 lakhs taka, each year, interest accrued at 3 lakh. That means 10% interest was accrued on the borrowed capital. So for 2 years, the interest on the borrowed capital was 6 lakhs taka. And the SSC bought some materials, construction materials from a shop in Nawapur. And the construction materials cost him 10 lakh taka. He could not make the payment, so the bills are pending still now. Afterwards, at the end of 3 years, the construction was completed and he started receiving 1 lakh as rent from a tenant. As rent, you will assume that this rent is per month, and you have to calculate the annual value in order to arrive at the income from house property under section 24. And another thing has been said, he had received an amount of 10 lakhs from the tenant, and nothing has been said about the repayment of the amount. Now, all these issues which are mentioned here have to be dealt with accordingly, and you have to advise the SSC what would be the effect on his income arising from all those issues. So first of all, you can think of the interest accrued. But interest accrued, he did not have any income from the house property.
স্যার এটা ইনকাম যখন শুরু হবে তারপর থেকে 3 বছর ভাগ করে ওই ইন্টারেস্ট অ্যাক্রুডটা সে মানে রিটার্নে দেখানো স্যার।
So this accrued interest would have to be divided proportionately
for 3 years
over the 3-year period when the income will start generating. So let us suppose that the monthly rent is 1 lakh taka and the yearly rent is 12 lakh taka, and we suppose that 12 lakh taka is the annual value of the property, and from this 12 lakh taka interest accrued would be deducted proportionately. So if it is 6 lakhs taka, 6 lakhs taka would be divided over a period of 3 years. So each year there would be 2 lakh taka. So 2 lakh taka would be deducted. And also he took taka 10 lakh from the tenant, but nothing has been said about the repayment of this figure. If it is so, then it will be straight away added to the income, and this would be treated as house property income under section 24. But the SSC has got an option to spread it over a period of 5 years maximum. 5 years means the year in which it was taken and another 4 years. So in all, it could be spread over a period of 5 years, and this is under section 1922. You have to refer it to section 1922. As per provision mentioned in section 1922, this would be treated as income from house property. But if the SSC does not give the option, then the full amount of money would be treated as income from house property in the single year. And another issue is here, which is related to the outstanding bills. The materials have been purchased from a trader from Nagpur, and he could not pay off the bills. It is still pending. So there is a treatment with regard to this transaction.
স্যার এটা হচ্ছে স্যার 2 বছরের ভিতরে অ্যাডজাস্ট করতে হবে, তাহলে স্যার হচ্ছে ইনকাম হিসাবে।
What shall you do with that?
স্যার এটা মনে হয় 3 বছরের মধ্যে রিপেমেন্ট না করলে ইনকামের যোগ হবে।
2 years ভাই।
It should be paid off within 2 years from the end of the year in which it was purchased. So let us suppose, you can assume 1 year, say 2018. If it is in 2018, then it has to be paid off within 2 years from the end of the year. So within 19, within 20, that means within 20 maximum 2 years. So by the end of 20, it has to be paid off. If not paid off, then in 2021, it should be treated as income from other source under section 33. It should be treated like that. But if it is paid off in any subsequent year by the SSC to the trader, then it would be treated as a deduction from the calculation of income. So this is related to section 1929. If you look at section 1929, it is said here that where an SSC, not being an SSC engaged in real estate business during any income year. So this person is not a real estate businessman. So he is a retired government servant, and he started building a house on the plot he was given by the government. So he took the raw materials, construction materials from a shop on credit basis. As he is not a real estate businessman, so he could not pay off the bills, and therefore it was an outstanding liability on his part. And the provision says that if the bills could not be paid up within 2 years from the end of the year in which the purchase was made shall be deemed to be the income of the assessee for the income year immediately following the expiry of the said 2 years and be classifiable under the head income from other sources. So that should be treated as income from other sources under section 33. Okay. So these are the issues here. Unadjusted amount given by the tenant to the assessee, that is one issue. Another issue is interest accrued on the borrowed capital during the construction period, which was not completed within 2 years' time. So interest was accrued. So that is another issue. And the other issue is relating to unpaid bills for the construction materials. So that is 1929. An unadjusted amount which was received from the tenant, that is under section 1922. So these are the issues related to this problem, and you have to solve the problem and advise the assessee accordingly what would be his effect. So what should he do? So you can properly advise, I believe. Okay, do you need any break for any reason?
এখানে
স্যার নামাজের জন্য স্যার নামাজের
স্যার এখানে স্যার ডিডাকশনটা আসবে না স্যার, যে হাউস রেন্টের এগেইনস্টে যে একটা ডিডাকশন পাই স্যার রিফাইন্যান্সের
House rent calculation, yes, of course, annual value you will be calculating, you will have deductions, of course, everything would be in order, no problem. But only issue is that accrued interest, yes, that will be spread over a period of 3 years. When you start receiving income from the tenant, you will have a deduction of taka 2 lakh each year, because 6 lakh taka is the accumulated accrued interest, and this 6 lakh taka would be spread over a maximum period of 3 years. So 2 lakh taka each year, that will be your deduction. And other deductions as well, because your repairs, your maintenance, any other expenditure, Darwan salary, liftsman's salary, etc., etc., whatever deductions are allowed under section 25, definitely you will have deductions.
Okay, sir.
হ্যালো স্যার,
Is it okay?
স্যার ইন্টারেস্টটা যখন হচ্ছে বাসাটা ভাড়া হলো তার আগ পর্যন্ত স্যার ইন্টারেস্টটা যে
Yes.
বছর বাড়িটা ভাড়া হয়েছে তার আগ পর্যন্ত যে ইন্টারেস্টটা হলো, ধরে নিলাম সেখানে 6 লাখ হয়েছে, যে বছর আমি বাড়িটা ভাড়া দিলাম সেই বছরও তো স্যার ইন্টারেস্টটা যদি হয় আরো 3 লাখ হলো, ওই 3 লাখ আসবে না স্যার যে বছর আমি বাড়িটা দিলাম স্যার। আমার যখন বাড়িতে ভাড়া দিলাম তার আগ মুহূর্ত পর্যন্ত স্যার আমার 6 লাখ আসছে, আর যখন আমি ভাড়া দিলাম সে বছরও তো স্যার ইন্টারেস্ট আসবে। হ্যাঁ, সেই ইন্টারেস্টটা কি অ্যালাউ, সেই ইন্টারেস্টটাও কি অ্যালাউ হবে?
Yes, of course.
তাহলে স্যার তাহলে তো টোটাল 9 লাখ হলো, আগ পর্যন্ত 6 লাখ।
No, you are making a mistake.
Oh, sorry, please, sir.
6 lakh taka for 2 years. So these 6 lakh taka for 2 years, which has been accumulated already, will be spread over a period of 3 years, not in 1 year.
স্যার সেটুকু বুঝতে পেরেছি, কিন্তু আমি বলতেছি স্যার যে ইন্টারেস্ট যে 6 লাখ আসলো আমার ভাড়া দেওয়ার আগ পর্যন্ত, সেই যে ইন্টারেস্টটা সেটাকে আমি 3 বছর ভাগ করে ইকুয়ালি আমি ভাগ করে দিলাম, কিন্তু যে বছর আমি ভাড়া দিলাম স্যার সে বছরটাও যে ইন্টারেস্টটা আসছে সেটা কি অ্যালাউ হবে না?
Allowed. Why not? Because
সে বছর এটাও অ্যালাউড হবে।
Yes, because 3 lakhs taka in that year, in which year you actually started receiving money. So 3 lakhs taka in that year, and 2 lakhs taka from the previous years.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
2 lakh plus 3 lakh, 5 lakh taka
5 lakhs
would be deducted. Yes.
Yes. Thank
That
you,
is
sir.
allowable.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So if you take a break, it is for 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. আসরের নামাজের ছাড়া একটা ব্রেক
15 minutes.
15 minutes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so after 15 minutes, you come back.
Yeah.
অনর ভাই
জি ভাই,
স্যার কি ইয়ে দিছে সিনপসিস দিছে
সিনোপসিস যেটা পড়াতেছে এটা তো
আচ্ছা,
সবার মেরে দিছে।
সিরাজ সাহেব পাঠাইছে।
আচ্ছা ওইটা একটু
হালিম সাহেব,
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আমাকে
হালিম
একটু দেন তো।
হালিম সাহেব পাঠাইছে মেইলে।
কে কথা বলছেন আরেকজন কে?
হালিম সাহেব মেইলে পাঠাইছে, হালিম সাহেব মেইল চেক করেন।
আরেকটা তো মর্ষদে বলতে। ওই যে
থ্যাংক ইউ,
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে
পেয়ে
গেছে।
গেছি। থ্যাংক ইউ, থ্যাংক ইউ।
ওকে।
ট্যাক্স প্ল্যানিং পরীক্ষা দেবেন কে কে ভাইয়া? হ্যালো,
পলাশ ভাই,
কে কে পরীক্ষা দেবে ট্যাক্স প্ল্যানিং?
এখন তো নামাজে উজু করতে যাইতেছি, নামাজ টামাজ পড়ে আসি।
আচ্ছা নামাজ পড়ে আসেন তারপরে কথা বলবো। থ্যাংক ইউ। Assalamu alaikum.
পলাশ ভাই কি যেন বলতেছিলেন? পলাশ ভাই শুনতেছেন?
Okay. We have come back. Can we start again?
জি স্যার।
Okay, so next question, number 6. What is the nature of liquidated damages received by a company from the supplier of plant for failure to supply machinery to the company within the stipulated time? Is it a capital receipt or a revenue receipt? For treatment in the income calculation of the trader, that is the company. So you will be calculating business income. And in order to calculate the business income, you have to give a decision. Maybe you are working on behalf of the SSC, and the SSC would ask you what type of receipt it would be. Say, for example, DCT has calculated it as a revenue expenditure. Since it has been calculated as a revenue expenditure, it is something else. If it is calculated as a capital expenditure, it will be different. So have you understood the problem? What is the nature of liquidated damages received by a company from the supplier of a plant? So the company has received an amount for liquidated damages. The supplier was supposed to supply a plant, but it could not supply the plant in time, that is not within the stipulated time. So that's why there was a damage caused to the company. So first of all, you have to understand the liquidated damage. What is liquidated damage? Liquidated damage is something which is the failure or breach of contract of the supplier, because supplier could not supply the product according to the contract or according to the agreement. So because of the breach of the agreement, there was a damage to the company, SSC company. So this liquidated damage, when received by the SSC company from the supplier, the DCT calculated it as a receipt and added to profit. Now the question is whether this will be added to profit or not. You can give a decision citing some High Court verdict or Supreme Court verdict, etc. if you have. So that is always better if you can give a verdict as reference. So this is actually damages directly and intimately linked to the procurement of a capital asset, because the company was supposed to receive a capital asset from the supplier, but the supplier, say for example, it's a cement plant, and the supplier could not supply it in time. So that's why what happened, which led to delay in coming into existence of the profit-making apparatus. That means the capital asset was to be used in the business for generating income, but it could not come into existence in due time. And that's why there was no generation of income. So it was not a receipt in the course of profit earning process. That means if you operate the company, there is a process of earning profit. So it was received, this amount was received from the supplier, and supplier was not able to supply the plant or machinery or capital asset in due time. That's why the company could not set up the plant and could not generate the operation. And since there was no operation, there was no profit. So the process of earning profit was delayed. So that's why there was a breach of contract by the supplier. And because of the default of the supplier was bound to pay some compensation money. And that compensation money is called liquidated damage. And according to the formation of the contract. So the decision is, this is not normal profit in the profit earning process. So the amount received by the SSC towards compensation for sterilization of the profit, it is not in the ordinary course of business. Hence, it is a capital receipt in the hands of the SSC. So since it is not in the ordinary course of business, so that's why this is a special one. And it was a capital receipt on the part of the company. So if it is a capital receipt, then it will not be treated as an income and which will not be taxed. So that is the decision given by the Supreme Court of India. You can refer this case. The case is Saurashtra Cement Limited. Saurashtra Cement Limited, Supreme Court of India. So, any question with regard to this?
তাহলে এটা কি ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হবে?
এটা capital receipt, not gain. Receipt, not gain, mind it. There is a difference between the two. If it is a gain, capital gain, it could be taxed. But when it is a capital receipt, it is receipt. So capital receipt is not generally taxed.
Yeah.
Until and otherwise specified in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. Generally, capital receipt is a receipt which is not taxed because this is not a revenue receipt. Always, you know, income consists of revenue receipts. So capital receipt is not part of the income, but it is taxed when it is specifically mentioned in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. Otherwise, you cannot tax it. Okay.
Yeah, clear.
Next question, you go to number 7, I think. What is the nature of grant received by a subsidiary company from its holding company to recoup the losses incurred year after year and to enable it to meet its liabilities, whether this is a capital or revenue receipt? Grant received by a subsidiary company from the holding company. Why? Because the grant was subsidy or grant that was received by the subsidiary company to recoup the losses incurred year after year. So the subsidiary company was incurring losses year after year, and the holding company actually gave grant to the subsidiary company in order to enable it to meet its liabilities. So there were so many liabilities because it could not make profit. So that's why there were liabilities. And in order to recoup the liabilities, the holding company gave some grants to the subsidiary company. Now, in case of the subsidiary company, what should be the nature of the grant, whether it is a capital receipt or a revenue receipt for income tax purpose? If it is a revenue receipt, definitely it will be taxed. But if it is not a capital revenue receipt, it will be a capital receipt. and generally it is not to be taxed. So your suggestion with regard to that? It could be in case of the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation or Bangladesh Textile Mills Corporation. Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporations always given some grants by the government in order to meet the liabilities, because they cannot pay off wages, they cannot pay off the interest accrued on its borrowed capital from the bank, etc. So that's why government gives grants to them. So in case of Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation, if the grant is received from the government to recoup the losses incurred year after year and to enable it to meet its liabilities, what would be the nature of the grant?
এটা তো স্যার ক্যাপিটাল রিসিট হয়।
Yes, it will also be treated as a capital receipt, because it's always seen that 100% of the holding companies, they are coming to the rescue of the subsidiary companies. Holding companies have to come to rescue the subsidiary companies, which requires the nature of subsidy to be decided on the basis for which the subsidy was given. Now the question is, why subsidy has been given or why the grant has been given? So the reason is the most important thing here. What is the objective of the subsidy or objective of the grant? That is the most important thing. But you can write in your exam paper that the most important thing here is the objective of giving the grant to the subsidiary company. If the objective of giving the grant to the subsidiary companies is to pay off the liabilities or is to recoup the interest on borrowed capital, etc., then it should be treated as a capital receipt, because the purpose is to secure and protect the capital investment made in the subsidiary company. The holding company has made an investment in the subsidiary company. So in order to secure and protect the capital investment, the grant has been given. Or in another case, you can say the government has given the grant to the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation in order to secure and protect the capital investment made in the subsidiary company by the government or made in the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation by the government. So this is to secure and protect the capital investment of the government. So that's why this would be treated as a capital investment, capital receipt. So capital receipt is not supposed to be taxed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. Okay. Then next one. Can power subsidy received by the SSC from the government year after year on the basis of actual power consumption be treated as a capital receipt? So what I have said before, grant given by the holding company to the subsidiary company. If you want to refer a high court case, you can refer a high court case. The high court case you can refer to is Handicrafts and Handloom Export Corporation of India. That is the case. In that case, the High Court decided like that. They held like that. So the next question is, can power subsidy received by the SSC from the government year after year on the basis of actual power consumption be treated as a capital receipt? Power subsidy receipt, SSC received power subsidy from the government on the basis of the actual power consumption. That means on the units that has been consumed on the basis of the consumption. This is very much related to trading receipt, because depending on the use of the power, by using the power or on the units consumed by the SSC, the subsidy was given by the government. So it is a trading receipt, not a capital receipt. So if it is a trading receipt, definitely it will be taxed. If it is not a trading receipt, then it will not be taxed. Then it will be treated as a capital receipt. But here in this case, it is on the basis of the consumption. And since on the basis of the consumption, it means that it is a trading receipt. And in that case, it will be taxed. If it is okay, then we move to the next point. Next point is, in case the share capital is raised in a foreign country and repatriated to Bangladesh on need basis from time to time for approved uses, can the gain arising on the balance sheet date due to fluctuation in foreign exchange in respect of that part of share capital which is to be used as working capital be treated as a revenue receipt? So in that case, the question is, share capital of the company was raised in the foreign country. That means company is located in Bangladesh, but the share capital in a foreign country was also raised. And when the share capital was repatriated to Bangladesh, that means it was remitted to Bangladesh. At that time, because of the fluctuation in rate of foreign currency, capital gain arose. I would not say capital gain here, but I would say that because of the fluctuation in foreign exchange, a gain actually arose. Because, say for example, when money was raised, share capital was raised, that was at a certain rate. But when it was remitted to Bangladesh, the rate actually changed. So because of the change in fluctuations in the foreign currency rate, so there was a gain. So if there is a gain, then what would be the treatment for the company? Revenue. So when you want to treat it, you have to look at the source of the fund. Source of the fund, not the ultimate use of the fund. What is the source of the fund? The source of the fund is the capital. That means purpose of acquiring fixed assets and to meet other expenses of the organization. You have to look into that. What is the purpose of acquiring fixed assets or to meet other expenses of the organization? These are the purposes. But here, you have to see to the source of funds, not the ultimate use of the funds. Here, entire gain was to be treated as capital receipt. As the source of the fund, in this case, is capital in nature. Source of the fund means share capital. The source of the fund, share capital. So share capital was raised in a foreign country. Then it was remitted to Bangladesh. And because of the fluctuations in exchange rate, there was a gain. So it is related to the capital. So since it is related to the capital, so its nature should be of capital nature. It should be of capital nature. And in that case, it will be treated as a capital receipt. So it is also a case which actually held in Delhi High Court. Delhi High Court held this, that ultimate use of the fund should not be taken into account. The fund should be used for acquiring fixed assets or for being used as a working capital, no matter, but you have to see the source of the fund, where the fund was raised. The fund was raised in a foreign country and it was related to the share capital. It was not something from a bank outside of the country. So it was not a working capital from a bank outside of the country. Rather, it was a receipt because of the price fluctuations, but in the process of sending the money, that is the share capital, to Bangladesh. So because of that process, this gain arose, and that gain has to be taken into account as a capital receipt. Okay, next question we can consult. Can subsidy received by the SSC from the government of Bangladesh under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of its capacities, modernization, and improving its marketing capabilities be treated as a capital receipt or not? So when you receive the subsidy, or when the subsidy is received by the SSC from the government under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of its capacities, modernization, and improving.
Sir, capital receipt.
Yes, should be capital receipt. Yes, and you have to look at the object of the subsidy. What is the object of the subsidy here?
Sir, extension. That means business promotion, business extension. So that.
Yes, in order to enable the SSC to run the business more profitably.
Yes,
the receipt is a revenue receipt. On the other hand, if the object of the assistance is to enable the SSC to set up a new unit or to expand an existing unit, then the receipt would be a capital receipt. So there are two objectives actually. If the objective is to run the business more profitably, the receipt would be a revenue receipt. But here, if the objective is to expand the business or set up a new unit, then it will be a capital receipt. So in this case, it would be a capital receipt.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. We can move to the next question. What is the nature of incentive received under the scheme formulated by the government of Bangladesh for recoupment of capital employed and repayment of loans taken for selling up or expansion of a sugar factory, capital or revenue? What would be the decision from your side?
Revenue received.
Revenue receipt.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me the reason?
Sir, business expansion, promotional expenses.
So what the company was doing with the subsidy incentive?
স্যার স্যার এটা ক্যাপিটাল, কারণ হচ্ছে যে সে এই এক্সপানশন করতে যাচ্ছে। এটা তো রুগ্ন ফ্যাক্টরি, এই রুগ্ন ফ্যাক্টরিকে আবার মানে অর্থাৎ রিস্ট্রাকচার করতে যাচ্ছে, এজন্য এটা ক্যাপিটাল রিসিট।
Yes, here there should be some eligibility condition, because you have to look at the eligibility condition. Eligibility condition is that the incentive had to be utilized for the repayment of loans taken by the SSC to set up a new unit or substantial expansion of an existing unit. So the subsidy receipt by the SSC was therefore not in the course of a trade, and hence was of capital nature. So that was not in the course of a trade. The incentive was in order to pay off the liability and to set up a new plant or new unit or substantial expansion of an existing unit. So that's why the subsidy receipt by the SSC would be treated as a capital receipt. So you can also refer to a case here. The case is, of course, High Court of India, Kishan Shankar Chini Mills Limited. It is related to a chini mill, that means sugar mill. Okay. The next one. Would expenditure incurred on feasibility study conducted for examining proposals for technological advancement relating to the existing business be classified as a revenue expenditure where the project was abandoned without creating a new asset?
স্যার এটা রেভিনিউ রিসিট।
Why should it be a revenue receipt? Can you tell me?
Yes, sir.
The reason?
But the project will not viable.
Yes, so it was abandoned.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Abandoned, fine, but the feasibility study was conducted. That is also true.
it's a development cost.
Yes, it is not for a particular plant or unit. So it is overall feasibility study. But
Yes, sir.
that was abandoned later on. So in that case, it should be treated as a revenue receipt. Yeah. Okay. So if you go through all the problems here and go through the synopsis.
Sir, have you provide us answer?
In this synopsis, you haven't got all the answers, but you can get the answers if you go through it first. Next synopsis will be given to you with the answers.
Thank you, sir. It will be very much more critical assessment of the question, and we will আমরা সেটা নিয়ে কাজ করতে পারবো এবং আমাদের এগুলা আরো কাজ করবে, মাথাগুলো অনেক কি করবে।
If you just read it, you can think of it and you will develop your analytical skills. Why they are treated as revenue receipt and why they are treated as capital receipt, what the High Court actually said. The decisions of the high courts, definitely they are from the analytical viewpoint. So if you go through those, the answers, then analytical skills in your case would be developed much more. So I believe that you would be able to understand well other cases, similar cases, and you will be confronted with such cases in future because there will be new issues, of course, coming up all the time, and the business is getting complex every day. So that's why new issues will be coming up. So I give you the answers in the next synopsis that will be circulated by the Student Counseling Department, Education Department. Mr. Abdul-Halim would be distributing all those synopses. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Just go through the problems. If you understand the problems and later on, if you get the results or answers, then you can develop your own analytical skill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So I think we have covered our time. So we finish here, and maybe next time we'll meet together again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your compliments and teaching. It will be better for us.
No, it's okay. My pleasure.
Thanks, sir. Sir, first time you take our class?
I actually take certificate level classes regularly as a guest lecturer. But your class I never took because I do not have much time to take classes. So this is for the first time I'm taking your class at the request of the Student Counseling Department. So this is overall discussion, but you will have regular classes definitely, and you have got regular teachers. They will be teaching you on specific issues, specific chapters, etc. But what I will like to discuss, that will be overall after you finish your regular classes, or you nearly finish your regular classes, then I will have overall discussion. My classes will be from any chapter. There is no specific chapter to cover, rather it may cover anything. Okay, sometimes we can also take your suggestions with regard to the change of the law, because you see the Income Tax Ordinance 1984 and the National Board of Revenue, they are trying to change the ordinance. So it will be converted into an act. So there are some suggestions from different corners, from different stakeholders. So sometimes we will be taking classes on the change of the law. So you can also suggest what changes should be brought about in the income tax ordinance. So if you go through the ordinance well, if you know the chapters well, then you can give us suggestions. And those suggestions could be incorporated, and we can give a policy to the National Board of Revenue that we want such changes in the new Income Tax Act, something like that. So I would be discussing with the changes to be brought about in the income tax ordinance. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Have the teacher gone away? Feasibility.
আজকে আমাদের যে ইনস্টিটিউটে যে বড় বস না সবচাইতে ইয়ে মানে এটা বলো সিইও ও ইয়ে দিছে উনি ক্লাস নিছে করছি তো রুম থেকে ওই 300 টাকা দিছিল মনে হয়